Hey guys, welcome back here. It's Anita, and if you guys had watched my previous video on intermittent fasting, you would know that I'd embarked on an intermittent fasting challenge for myself, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my experience with you on this journey. If you guys haven't watched my last video, definitely check it out. Intermittent fasting, one of the best things you can do for your body, makes you look younger and keeps you living longer too, and those are things money can buy, so definitely worth trying. So I started intermittent fasting 38 days ago, and I started doing the 16-8 fast, which is the 16 hours of fasting and an 8-hour eating period. And the 16-8 is recommended from anyone from beginners to pro levels. The reason here being is that 16 is the magic number where you can reap all of the benefits of fasting and yet not feel too hungry that you think you're dying. And while I have fasted before, I never did it with the help of an app. This time I used an app called which is an excellent app, super user-friendly and free as well, and it really kept me motivated and kept me going, and I loved seeing the little clock telling me how much I had fasted, how long I had fasted for, and how long I had left. Just want to say upfront, fasting has been one of the most transformative things for me, emotionally, physically and mentally, and it's also helped me lose almost 3 kilos without changing my diet or my exercise pattern, which is amazing. One of the main reasons intermittent fasting is better than dieting is that with dieting you have to restrict yourself, you restrict your calories, and you kind of have a set goal that you have to reach before you stop dieting. With intermittent fasting, all you're doing is something that humans have done naturally since the dawn of time, which is spacing out your eating, and you don't need to cut out anything from your diet, and you can continue to eat whatever you want to eat without feeling like you're restricting yourself. And you also know that it's temporary versus dieting, where it can go on forever until you reach that impossible goal that you've set for yourself. So the first week for me, I'm not gonna lie, was quite tough. I hadn't fasted for years before this point in time, so getting back onto it was a struggle. It wasn't easy, but it also wasn't impossible. I mean, I did it. It was more uncomfortable than anything, to be honest. And I think the reason for me personally is that my eating style before was more of a grazer, so I would graze and snack and eat throughout the day. So having to stop grazing and eat during a certain window, I think, was a bit harder. I remember having to remind myself several times saying, hey, no, we're in the fasting period, so we can't eat, we can't graze. And I even had to reason with myself multiple times of the day on why we were doing this, and had to remind myself multiple times of all of the benefits of intermittent fasting. One of the best ways to curb any hunger you might have is to stay super hydrated and drink lots of water. It definitely worked for me. A typical fasting day for me would be to start fasting around 6 and to break my fast the next day at around 10 in the morning. I would wake up much before that and just have some teas and some water, and when I did break my fast, it would be something really simple, just like a yogurt with some fruits. And then I would wait until I had lunch around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And I try to keep lunch healthy, so try to eat a lot of greens, a lot of protein and whole grains. Although sometimes it was pizzas and burgers and yay, and a lot of other stuff, because you gotta live. The main struggles I had during the first week, and these are pitfalls that you guys should be aware of if you do try intermittent fasting. There were things like feeling hungry before 10 a.m. and after 6 p.m. and this was mitigated by staying hydrated, being distracted, so staying super busy, and even just working out. Because on the days that I had a lot going on, I didn't even know, the time just went by like that. Another big pitfall to be aware of is your brain tricking you into eating a huge amount of food when you do stop fasting. So your brain is programmed to go into survival mode, where it tells you, hey, we're not gonna have food till 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, eat up and really stuff yourself. So don't do this, and just remind yourself that it's a temporary situation. You can eat as much as you want to, as much as you should during your fasting window, and the time is just gonna go like that, and before you know it, it'll be 16 hours and you can have your next meal again. And another struggle was not wanting to exercise, because I kept thinking that if I did, I would get hungry. And turns out that actually exercising made me feel less hungry, because if you do very intense exercise, you don't really feel hungry afterwards. So if you guys are fasting and thinking of not exercising, just go ahead and go and exercise, and you'll feel so much better after, and possibly even less hungry. Week 2 got slightly easier. By week 2 I had already fasted 112 hours, so I was quite proud of myself, and that kept me going. I was like, hey, let's do this, you know, let's keep this going and see if we can make it a full habit. By then I was no way used to it, but it had definitely gotten easier, so some of the struggles and pitfalls I mentioned in week 1 were no longer as present or as prominent. However, week 2 was quite a stressful week for me, and I think the stress kind of made me hungrier because I kind of wanted to reach for something to snack on when I was super stressed, and I couldn't do that because I was fasting, and that made it slightly harder, but I pushed through those stressful times and got through them. And trust me when I say that I do eat when I'm stressed, even if it's just some berries or an apple, but I kind of like reaching for something when I get super stressed out. So if I can get through it, you guys can as well. This basically just taught me that right when you think you can't go any further, you just have to persevere for just that one moment more and you will get through it. Fasting also really helped my procrastination, I must say, because I think I used to just go for a snack and procrastinate a bit, but now that I didn't have that option, I just stopped procrastinating. So like removing the option removed the desire. And the reason why it is 600 hours instead of the 480 if I had only fasted 16 hours every single day is that there were some days where I got super busy with work. I actually ended up fasting more than 16 hours, and that happened on multiple different occasions where I was doing 20-hour fast, 17-hour fast, 18-hour fast, and the hours just added up, and in the end it ended up being 600 hours, and I was super proud of myself. Week 3 was a bit of a blur for me. I think work had just built up to an extent that I didn't really think too much of fasting anymore, and it kind of got slightly easier. And I do remember having to do like multiple 18-hour fasts and 20-hour fasts, and I didn't even notice them. I just would realize, I'd see my little timer on the fasting app and be like, oh cool, I fasted for 20 hours and I'm not even hungry. And this is particularly easy if you actually start fasting earlier in the day. So oftentimes when I would finish fasting at 10 in the morning, I would then have breakfast at 10 and then have a very hearty lunch at around 1 and get on with work, get on with life, and even avoid dinner. So by the time I had my next meal the next day, it would be like 20 hours. So week 4 was, I won't say it was any easier or any more difficult. I mean, it does take 66 days to form a habit, and week 4 is not even close to that. So I kind of expected it to just be about the same in terms of difficulty. I had to modify my fasting schedule a few times in order to be able to go for dinner with friends and family. So definitely keep that in mind, that you have the flexibility to modify your schedule and that it's not a prison and it's like you're not being punished here, guys. Even though it might feel like it at times. Just remind yourself that we are doing this to stay healthy and live longer. I also found that if I was struggling with feeling hungry, eating protein heavy meals and fiber healthy meals, so meals with lots of fruits and veg, definitely curbed off the hunger and did not make me even think of food for later on. If you're struggling with inspiration on what to eat to be able to fast for long periods of time, definitely make sure you're eating a well-balanced meal with your proteins and your veg in them. It's now been 30 days that I've been doing this fast, and I must say that some of the initial battles that haunted me in the start still do definitely haunt me, but now that I know to expect them, I think they affect me a lot less than they did in the start, and I've definitely gotten better at dealing with them. Another thing I noticed after fasting and while fasting is that my focus was definitely better and I had a lot of energy. And I think the reason my focus was better was because I didn't have the distraction of food or thinking about what my next meal would be or what I should be eating. So I was able to focus all of my energy on the task at hand. No procrastination. A tip I have for you guys is to not skip dessert. I mean, if you're trying to lose weight and doing this, of course, good for you. And if you have a certain meal plan, go for it. However, I found that rewarding myself with a nice good dessert, whatever that may be for you, at the end of every meal to be the most satisfying thing, and it actually boosted my motivation to keep fasting. So don't skip dessert, guys. Reward yourself. You're doing this for your health. You know, you deserve to treat yourself. So that is essentially my update of my 600 hours of fasting so far. So far, it's been going great. It's definitely not yet a habit, and I don't expect it to be for until I reach 66 days at least. So I'm gonna keep going, and I shall give you guys an update when I do hit the 66 days mark to see if it's gotten any easier and if I feel less hungry and if I've stopped dreaming about food during the day. I definitely recommend it so far. I mean, I've seen great results in terms of energy, focus, weight loss. The way I look at it is kind of like sleeping, because you're doing nothing and yet it's good for your body. And the 16-8 method strikes the perfect balance, as I said before. So if you're thinking about trying it out, do try the 16-8. However, if you're complete new to this, do try the 12-12 method, where you fast for 12 hours and you have a 12-hour eating window. And do remember that about 8 hours of the time you're fasting will be spent sleeping anyway, so it will just go like that. I hope you guys found this video useful, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.